Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everybody, and welcome today to the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. I'm just so grateful that you're here with us today, that you're somebody that cares about this whole notion of living life awakened and inspired, and that you care about, just our world and the way that things are going today. I'm so excited to bring together today someone to the Conscious Living Podcast who also shares that value about just, coming together to have a more awakened life, and particularly around this area that I love talking about, this area of money and wealth. Lisa Williams is a delightful colleague and friend of mine who hails from Alaska. She says, yes, she did grow up with a fishing pole in her hand. She is just a really committed entrepreneur. And what she's committed to is people taking wealth into their own hands, understanding that the more we educate ourselves about the whole process of wealth and what's entailed with wealth, the more that we will be empowered. And the more that we're empowered, the more we can live a truly free and enlightened life. So she is the founder of the Kingdom Wealth Creator Formula and the Kingdom Wealth Creator Community. She is involved in so many communities and does so much that I began our off-screen time together today saying, Lisa, how do you do everything that you do? She is just really a firecracker of enthusiasm and a wealth of knowledge. So Lisa, I'm so excited to have you on the show today and to really dive into some of your thoughts, ideas, and deep knowledge about wealth creation. So thank you for being with us on the show.
Well, it's my pleasure, my friend. God's gift for me is all the beautiful women that have come into my life. I mean, Jackie, I know that you're a USA Today and four-time Amazon best-selling author. I am just so blessed and honored to be here, and we're going to have some fun. We get to help women get smart about money and embrace their wealth builder within them. I love talking about this stuff. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, my friend.
So you have a really interesting path to entrepreneurship. I think you had something like 19 bosses before you entered into the field of entrepreneurship. So tell us a little bit more about your path to business ownership.
It's a circuitous one. I will tell you, I did indeed. I was actually in corporate for about 30 years.
Wow.
I am a recovered corporate executive. I claim that recovery,
There
although
you
I
go.
still have some PTSD on occasion, right?
Oh.
Jackie, did you ever wake up one morning and just feel like you didn't really look forward to where you were going? I had those many days, although I loved what I did for decades, actually. I was one of those really blessed people that accidentally landed in a career that was just absolutely perfect for me. And I loved it for a long time. But did you ever stay somewhere too long? Did you ever stay in a room too long or a job too long? Right?
I always was really blessed and moved on too quickly. The one that came to mind when you said, did you ever wake up not wanting to go to work, was when I was in college and I was working on a blueberry farm, believe it or not.
Ah!
A summer job on a blueberry farm. But I have to say, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been really blessed, right out of graduate school, working as a clinical social worker. And I had such a wonderful career as a clinical social worker in different therapy settings and schools and prisons and hospitals, and then in private practice. And then from there into my coaching field. And I've just been really blessed. I didn't have the 30 years of corporate. I had 30 years of a career that I loved. And still now, I honestly have said many times I've never worked a day in my life, except maybe a few of those days on the blueberry farm.
Well, you're doing a really great job of moving into your next king. I like to call it your kingdom calling.
Oh, I
I think
love
we
that.
all have something that we're born with these
Yeah,
blessings and these gifts.
yeah,
And I know for myself, I had opened many chapters, but then there was a period where I had kind of stopped reading and opening those chapters of
yeah,
my life.
yeah.
And I really knew nothing about entrepreneurship. I had never, there was no entrepreneurial, history in my family other than wheat farmers in Montana. I don't know how entrepreneurial that is. You're kind of born into it, right? My generation didn't want to continue farming. My parents moved to Alaska. But I feel like the roots of entrepreneurship had always been within me. I just didn't know that,
Yeah,
right? And I think it was literally saying yes to something like your beautiful community. It's something similar. Another mentor that I have just started to feel a little stretchy and wanted to learn something new.
yeah,
And it just went from there, kind of roller coaster ride from there, snowball effect. And you're right. We spoke earlier. I feel like the more wisdom that I seek, the fewer miracles that I need in my life, and the greater my capacity. God keeps making it greater,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Especially when you lock arms with other women that are in alignment with you and what your vision and your goals are. So you're not doing it alone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
love that. You talk about so many things that are interesting to me. So I'm going to dive in and because I want to learn from you, Lisa. You do have so much knowledge. You talk about something called protect, earn, and multiply, how to ensure that the IRS is not in charge of your retirement, and to retire tax-free. I'm getting to be at the stage of my career that on the one hand, I say I'm never going to retire because I'll always have my hand in this. But at some point, I'll be doing less of what I do. So let's talk about that a little bit because I know a lot of the people in my community are around the same age that I am and have maybe a nod toward those retirement years. So do you mind
Yeah.
diving into that notion a little bit?
Absolutely. It kind of goes along the same lines as the transition from corporate America, that system that so many of are trained to be part of,
Yeah.
into this entrepreneurial journey. What happens, I think, often is we bring those same wealth building skills that we did as employees to our now entrepreneurial life. And yet there's so much we can learn in our wealth building skills as well.
Okay.
I have a mentor I call her my money mama. Her name's Sharon Lecter.
Yeah, sure.
And she just wrote this fabulous book called How Money Works for Women. One of the first things that she believes in, and that it's interesting, my father instilled in me from a little girl, is that you always protect yourself. And I didn't really know what that meant at first, but what he meant was life insurance.
Uh,
And it's so interesting how, little roots and ideas that were planted in your life as a child. Um, Never did I dream that in my financial practice, that's one of the things that we help families with. Never did I dream that I would be at one point doing that. But I really appreciate the opportunity to be a disruptor in the financial industry.
hmm.
The way that traditional financial services is telling, for example, our kids, our grandkids to invest is the same way that they told us to invest. And yet we live in an entirely different economic climate.
Mm.
What I mean by that, for example, is taxes. Like, Jackie, do you think taxes are going to be higher or lower in the future?
Higher.
I agree with you. And so the question is, how are most families saving right now?
Not very well.
They're either not saving at all, because you're right. Unfortunately, the average family is saving 1% right now. or they're doing it in a tax deferred way. It's like they're deferring their taxes down the road till they have this big pile of money that they haven't paid taxes on.
Yep.
So, one of the things that I love about teaching families about protection is, first of all, no family should ever need a GoFundMe. That's one of my missions, that no family ever needs a GoFundMe, right? And protecting yourself with insurance enables you to disrupt the financial industry because you automatically have a legacy that you're leaving to your family. It's completely tax-free. So much has changed in the world of insurance. It's kind of like, my cell phone that I'm holding up right now. I've had probably 5 iterations of this in the last 10 years. And it's very common for us all to upgrade those. But then we don't often upgrade our financial products that we look at, that we have, right?
Yeah, of course. Who wants to
That's
think about that,
protection.
right?
Earning's a big part of it too. You and I spoke about this earlier. What the number one thing that when I'm sitting down with families, almost without fail, the number one thing they think about is, how do I increase my cash flow? So that's, how do I earn more? Because you can spend less or earn more. It's just so much more fun to earn more,
Yeah.
right? So doing better with the money that we have, in addition to making more, and that allows you to multiply, right? So you can do it with the hands of many. You can do it with just your 2 hands, but in multiple ways, right? So that's the basic formula, but the underlying premise is really that we are all wealth creators. Every one of us. We have the ability to create wealth and abundance in our lives. Every one of us has different skills, and yet why are some people's skills bringing more fruit than others, right? I think it's really tapping into that heart, that kingdom calling that you have, is going to help you get there a lot faster.
Yeah.
Coupled with doing it with other women that are doing it together.
Yeah.
You and I had some fun when you were a guest on my challenge, for example. I love how you shared your community with me. They came in, and I'm doing the same with your community. I love when we're so much better when we lock arms,
Absolutely.
and everybody raises, everyone gets risen, right?
Absolutely. So do you have specific strategies for ensuring how the IRS is not in charge of your retirement? Like, I'd love to be able to pay
Absolutely.
less taxes in
Yeah.
retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a really, really cool one right now that just came about during the CARES Act, actually. It used to be that you really didn't have any options, for example, to, in those deferred accounts, if you have 401ks or IRAs or whatever, you had to wait till you were 59 and a half, first of all. That still exists, unfortunately, but now there's other options that you can do without taking those tax hits. So there's something that happened during the CARES Act that the IRS made it seem it was good for us, okay? But really, it's just that they wanted our taxes sooner, okay? So, for example, Jackie, do you have either of your parents with you still? Or
My mom
any
is still
Okay.
alive. Yeah.
So it's a great example of our parents. Okay. My dad's 81. He has most of his assets deferred. Okay. Um, and what that means is as soon as he passes, I'm gonna, certainly have an inheritance, but we're also gonna get a pretty big tax bill. Okay.
Mm.
And what happened during the CARES Act is it used to be that you and I could take that inheritance, that tax bill over our lifetime. But what they did during CARES Act is they made it a 10-year window.
Mm.
So that means we have to distribute that asset in a period of 10 years, take a pretty big tax hit during that time. So the financial teams, they respond to what the IRS is doing, right? they came up with a really fabulous product. It's called a Roth conversion product.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So what that gives you the ability to do is over that same 10 years, or 5 years or what have you, take a portion of that in your own assets now each year and convert it to a Roth. So therefore, when, you're no longer here, you don't pass a big tax bill to your children, or when you're in retirement, you don't personally have to have a big tax bill, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's a fun tool that a lot of people don't know about, and it's just because it's one of those new tools that just came out, as a result of the CARES Act. And if we don't know about it, we're not going to be able to benefit from it,
Right,
right?
right. Well, I
Yep.
unfortunately won't have any inheritance from my mom, but that
Yeah.
will be something that for people who have that inheritance, that will be a
Well, something for you to do for yourself then,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
have, if you
My
had
son.
have deferred assets.
Yeah, we'll be setting up a trust for my son.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will help for him.
The trust is a fabulous tool as well. 70% of families don't have one, which means a lot of your hard-earned money is going to go towards, Uncle Sam or probate. Well, that's not too fun, right?
Right, right. So
Yeah.
we'll a lot of our assets will be managed through a trust and a trust administrator for our son.
Yeah,
Another thing
it's important.
that interests me that you talk about, I love this, conquer your approval addiction to build your wealth and abundance. So talk about that. I certainly could relate to that phrase because a lot of people really feel the need to receive other people's approval, but you talk about it as an addiction and then you relate it to money. So do you mind going into that topic a little bit?
Oh man, this is a big one, and I suffer from it as we all do.
Sure, we all
Um,
do, yeah.
we all do, and to varying degrees. It's funny, yesterday my daughter, she was getting her braces off, and she had two options. She had an option to get a retainer that would stay in her mouth all the time, so she couldn't lose it, or like the removable ones, right? And she wanted the removable ones, but the dentist suggested she have the permanent. And she ended up getting them because that's what they thought, right? And the whole night last night, she was just so mad at herself that she hadn't stood up for herself,
Yeah,
And it starts I give that example because it starts so young in
yeah,
all of
yeah.
us
Hmm.
at such early ages. When it comes to your wealth building, you think about what what most investors do. First of all, very few people have the bravery that you do, Jackie,
Mm,
that hired yourself. Most people have this idea of safety, right? And safety in a job, safety in a paycheck. My profession for 30 years was I was a headhunter. I was a senior partner at one of the largest recruiting firms in the world in financial services. And there is nothing more unsecure than a job, quite frankly, in my opinion,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, so you think about we kind of buy into this system, but then we also buy into the ways that everyone is told to build wealth. You go to work or you work for yourself, everyone says, get a 401k, do open an IRA, right? And yet the wealthy do not do that. They might take advantage of some of those ideas, but they have a lot of other things that they do as well, right? We teach a concept called be your own banker with cash value life insurance, for example. It's been around since the Rockefellers. Anyone can do it. And you don't have to be wealthy to do it either. So it's really just, thinking about money differently. And I think education is where it starts personally, because I know that they're not teaching our kids certainly anything in school, just like they didn't teach us. We learned how to balance a checkbook, right?
right,
Which
right,
they don't even have anymore,
right,
right? I'm dating myself a little bit here.
right.
And yet we think, is 90% of families have they achieved financial wellness and freedom? The answer is no. So something's broken in our traditional wealth building system. So we get to think differently. And yet it's scary to think differently. We
Yeah.
might not, we might get Uncle Bob might criticize us, Aunt Sue might say, "What are you thinking? Why are you doing this?" Right? Our parents don't understand. And
Right.
yet we seek their approval. We want to have them feel good about what we're doing, right?
Yeah. So we have to
Yeah.
really be able and willing to step outside the box because finance has really changed. Our culture, employment has changed. We're
Yeah.
in a really different economy now than back in our parents' and grandparents' generation.
Such a different economy. And, it's interesting. We live in such a just in time world, right?
Mm.
And one of the biggest things I'm seeing right now is a lot of fraud in the financial space. My own sweet father, he's been taken in three different scams,
Oh,
and it
wow.
has to do in his case around crypto.
Yeah.
He's had this just intense interest in this space, right? And it leaves such room for predators to come in and, you know, I'm going to teach you something new. I'm going to help you learn about this, evasive, like crazy world of crypto. And yet there's really great ways to invest in that space as well. I feel like, unfortunately, again, it's so much of it. You say educate, empower, enlighten, and living the conscious life.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with that desire to earn and multiply before we protect or we trust and verify, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
How are some of the ways that you feel confident directing people to build their wealth or increase their cash flow? I've been in two different crypto things that were total scams. I didn't put much in, didn't lose money that I couldn't
Yeah.
absorb, but how do you feel confident? How do you know?
Well, in the crypto space specifically, I use one company. I use it personally. I refer it to my clients, and the reason is because all they deal with is Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And they're based in LA. I can see the building. I can meet the
Oh,
people.
nice. Yeah.
They're trusted, advisors, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of the things I notice with the scams is it's so easy now to set up like a dummy
Right.
website or
Online.
it
Yeah.
looks so legit, especially with AI, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I too was taken in a scam as well. And it was very difficult for me because I vetted it for a year and then until sharing it with my community,
Yeah. Of
and it imploded. And it was devastating for me
course.
to,
Of course.
have other people trust my guidance,
Yeah.
right? Um, so it's a company called Swan. That's who I use. When it comes to multiplying, one of the things that I love what Amazon did. I love what Uber did. Amazon, they democratized really like the retail system,
Hmm.
right? Uber democratized the driver's license.
Yeah.
There's companies out there. You and I are part of an affiliate group, JVMM. We're both part of the Better Network, and really, what affiliate marketing does is it democratizes our most personal thing, which is who we know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who we know, who we trust, who trusts us, right? And the Better platform, Jackie, you should share your link with your community. They're really eradicating some of the biggest challenges in our country. One is debt, the healthcare crisis, the tax crisis. And, it's first, I always tell people look at and see if there's products that you could benefit from personally. I was paying a lot for health insurance, for example. I saved $700 a month for
Wow.
my family's health insurance.
Wow. That's a
That
lot.
helps me tell a better story
Yeah,
about
that's a
what
lot.
this company's doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always tell people, start with yourself. If are there things that you could benefit from? Do you have student loan debt? Do you have tax crisis that you're under, right? And then you're better able to share the good news of what you're doing, right? I feel like right now we're in such a climate of change. One of the things that I loved about what happened during COVID, you might have heard of the Great Resignation
Yeah. Yeah. Of
that
course.
was
Yeah.
talked about in my industry, the recruiting space. And what I love about that is a third of those people that resigned actually started their own
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
And so many of them were online businesses, affiliate businesses that you can share wherever you are and enable you to have this laptop lifestyle that we talk about as
Digital nomad.
entrepreneurs,
Digital nomad.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's a fun it's a fun world that we live in,
It
and it
is.
gets to be fun. It doesn't have to be scary,
Yeah,
right?
it's exciting. It's a great way to live if you've got the self-discipline and the vision and, as you say, the kingdom calling to to go out and really create that sense of mission and purpose and freedom. I've been this way for a
Yeah,
long, long time. So, I used to be out and on site and in businesses. Now I mostly work from home since COVID changed everything. And at
yeah,
first I didn't like it. Kind of got I didn't know my identity changed because I was so used to
yeah,
being out in places and on stages and with people. So at first I really didn't like it, felt kind of lost my identity and felt kind of lonely. But now if I have to go out on site, it's like, oh, I have to get on a plane and go.
right.
I've definitely adapted to the work from home lifestyle for sure. Well, Lisa,
Yeah,
this has been
yeah.
a lovely connection. You have so much knowledge, and you have so many offerings for people that I really want to encourage our audience to get in touch with you. What are the best ways for people to find you and be in touch with you to talk more deeply and thoroughly about your offerings?
You can find us all over. Just go to lisawilliamsco.com. We have a monthly challenge. We would love you to join us. Jackie's been part of it before, where we help you find that wealth creator within you and add some cash flow streams to your life. I'll make sure, Jackie, and give you my calendar link too if anyone
For sure.
would like to personally meet and learn more about that tax-free wealth building, earn, protect, and multiply strategy. Would welcome an opportunity to meet with them too.
So awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time and generosity being with us. It's always great to spend time with you.
Thank you, Jackie. You are God's best idea, and I love being part of your world. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.